Ben Murray needs no introduction. I think everyone knows he was at NetJets from the start. And now, well, do you want to take and now President and CEO of Sky Service. And actually, this is a home gig for him, even though he's based, Sky Service is largely Canadian because, you own Fontainebleau.
Exactly. Thanks, Al, for having me, and good to see everyone this morning. You know what? We announced us acquiring Fontainebleau at the show last year at the same time at this venue. So shout outs to my partner, Jeff Sofer. We looked at that business really seriously, and primarily in our 5-year plan, we looked at South Florida as our a key location for us, primarily because where our managed fleet was flying. Number one destination, our managed fleet was South Florida, so we had been targeting every location on the map, and I had called Jeff year after year after year, and I said, do you ever want to sell your FBO? Give me a call. Finally, he answered the bell, and it's been a great addition to our network. In year one, we saw a 30% increase in our profitability. Great hotel operators, great branding people, but really weren't that focused in business aviation. So we saw lots of opportunity to improve our lease rates, restructure and re-engineer the way we bought fuel and sold fuel. And then we were able to integrate that business very quickly into our platform. Going from 15 million of EBITDA to 22 million of EBITDA in the first year, and I think the trajectory is just going to go a lot higher. We're super excited, but yeah, this is an example of the resort is kind of a parallel as the aviation business. So we're really excited about that.
And as well as the business driver behind the transaction, you also went to the soft launch of Fontainebleau. Fontainebleau.
I know, we can never say it right, can we, Al?
I just pronounce it the way it's written.
Yeah.
Fontainebleau in Las Vegas. And just funny, who performed for an hour and a half at that?
So Justin Timberlake, right? He was opening night. We had 500 guests. It was a lot of fun. We still got to get him to be a customer of ours, though. I don't know if he flies privately, but he should be flying with one of us in the room at least.
Okay, so today's session is looking at vertical integration and how it works for aircraft owners. Do you want to just take us through Sky Service?
Yeah, so listen, I think I'm in my 30th year of being in the industry and saw a lot of unique businesses over the years. My wife's a Canadian, so I've been a customer of Sky Service for probably 20 years or so, and I kept going up to Canada, and I was like, it's a great platform business. Started in 1986 as a small little FBO in Montreal, and it kind of morphed into, at the time, when I made my investment and to be the largest shareholder of the company was late 2019. It's a sleepy little business, but it had really 3 really nice businesses within the business. So it had a FBO platform, had a really good, stable, consistent customer base with its management clientele, and it had an enormous amount of talent in its MRO business. Sky Service is the authorized service center for Bombardier, Gulfstream, Dassault, and HondaJet. In Canada, we've got about 240 technicians in our business with multiple different training certificates across all the OEMs. And it's a destination location for our employees. So at the time, it was a small business right in the middle of COVID. And I said, you know what, I think this is a great platform to make an investment. And really the emphasis of the investment was that we can grow in all 3 sectors if we bring some professional management, if we can get some dry powder to invest in the business. And in the last 4 years, we've basically, same-store sales have grown at a 36% compounded annual growth rate. If we look at our acquisitions, we've grown at 117%. And I think we're just getting started. And year after year after year in Canada, we continue to win accolades as like the best FBO business, best management business, best MRO business, and now we're starting to introduce that business to the United States.
So yesterday, Ken from Flex spoke about the assassins of private aviation and how the private equity coming in and taking over FBOs is not good for the industry. You've been out there buying FBOs.
Yeah.
What's your strategy and how easy is it to compete?
So listen, there's a lot of capital available, and we had very low leverage last year in our business before we acquired Fontainebleau, and in order to acquire that business, we had to go out and raise some capital, and we found two really nice anchor investors. They want to deploy more capital. They're anxious for us to find new investments. We've just been a really good steward to our own financials, and we've been very cautious about how we are going to deploy capital. What's interesting is we talk about our three vertically integrated businesses with MRO, FBO, and business aviation, and I would say the fourth business that we've really added to our repertoire is that we've learned how to build FBOs, and we learned how to develop them. And instead of going out and doing an acquisition at a 15 multiple of EBITDA, we can go do a build multiple at 6 to 7 times. And then we can get those facilities leased up very quickly. So we like that. And my cousin Mark runs our construction business along with the oversight of Tidy Bay. And that's where we're really enjoying the return of that focused investment and adding that kind of pedigree to our operation. So there's a lot of capital available, but it's you need to make that call.
And is it easy to find locations?
It's tough to find locations. We're looking primarily, you can see on our map, like we have all the dots on the map in Canada, and we've made an investment in the Pacific Northwest, and we're starting to make a bigger footprint in South Florida with our investment in Miami, and then next week we'll be opening Fort Lauderdale. It's a state-of-the-art, probably will be one of the top FBOs in North America. And we're already very close to being leased up on that 80,000 square foot property already in a world-class terminal in operation. So they're tough to get. Like there's some serious barriers to entry. But if you can get the right location where you have the right traffic and you have the right customer base and the network of base tenants, I think there's a lot of opportunity in the space for lease rates and fuel volumes, and there's more elasticity in fuel pricing still, in my opinion.
Why did you want to be integrated?
I think one of the dangers of being a vertically integrated is that now you have to deliver excellence in all sectors that you make the investment in. So what are your competencies, right? Is that I think a lot of people in the room are really good in their sector. They do a phenomenal job, whether it's aircraft brokerage, it's aircraft management, or primarily focused in FBOs. And I only want to be in a business that is excellent in all categories. So the benefit of vertical integration, in my opinion, is that there's so many a la carte customers coming through in charter. They're in trial, they're sampling, they're trying to understand how this all works and how they can use business aviation as a transportation solution. So in our model, we have early identification of those customers. And as they get certain aggregate number of hours, or they look at what their consumption is of private aviation, we have some really nice digital tools that allow us to understand early identification, and then we can engage with them early to say, hey, you've been using us sampling in an a la carte way. You see the value of how we operate with our FBOs. You get to see the customer touch and the hand-holding that we offer and the customization of being part of our family. And then when they hit that certain number of hours, we're able to introduce the concept of we refer a lot of fractional customers to some of the bigger fractional operators out here, but we also have an opportunity to say, well, would you like to transition into aircraft ownership? And let's start looking at what your budget is, where you're traveling to, how do you want to enjoy the use of this aircraft? And then we'll go and source that airplane for them, and then they get introduced to our MRO operations, which in my 30 years, I think we have the best MRO operation and really unbelievable pedigree and training and quality in our operation. It's a little unknown secret in the industry being Canadian, and there's a great arbitrage on the hourly rate as well from the Canadian dollar to the US dollar. And then once they get through that pre-buy experience and we buy them the right airplane, they can be integrated into our management program. And we take that very seriously to be a good steward to their investment and make sure that we operate safely and we're hiring the right crews and we're maintaining that aircraft. So when they do want to exit, they have a really good residual value and a good experience. And it's all integrated into our business.
We'll come back to exits because I think that's an area you're doing some really interesting stuff.
Yeah.
As you go along that chart, the aircraft management is by far the lowest margin business, isn't it?
Well, in our model, aircraft sales is the lowest percentage-wise in regard to our gross profitability. But FBOs is 68% of our gross profit comes from FBO, leasing, hangar space, and fuel sales. And then we've operated at our MROs operating around 17% of our GP and 16% management, and then a low percentage for aircraft sales. But we like being in the aircraft sales business because the way we operate is to make sure we buy the right airplane for our customers and everything's transparent and they know that they're getting really good value when we go select an airplane or sell their airplane for them.
Do you almost need the aircraft management as your shop window for the MRO and the...
So right now in the U.S., we're primarily a pure play FBO business. But in Canada, because the addressable market's so small, there's only really 500 airplanes in Canada that we would consider customers or addressable market. So, having 70 of those airplanes, a lot of times we talk about what underpins our business. Is it our real estate platform or is it our management customer? There's always that debate, right? And but I would say it's nice to have the management customer because we know we can always lease up our facilities. We're selling a lot of services to them for fuel. We get a first look at their maintenance coming due. That it's an installed customer that really gives us that comfort and security as we start our planning over the next 4 or 5 years.
And do owners like being able to use you on all of those things, or does some just want the a la carte where I'll go for management but not maintenance? Or?
Yeah, I think it depends on where they're at in the life cycle of their ownership. A lot of owners that have a near new airplane, 0 to 3 years or something, they're generally going back to the OEM, and we've got unbelievable relationships with all the OEMs where we work with them to support them. There's a real benefit by being based in our hangars and having our maintenance team available all the time. Total transparency in the way we invoice and bill the customers. We're not waiting for slots to get it scheduled for a big inspection. But we're very consultative, right? And it's always at the discretion of what the owner wants and how they want to manage their asset.
And talking about managing the asset, you've just joined the AFRA Aircraft Recycling Association. What's the F stand for? I can't remember.
I can't either.
Aircraft Frame Recycling Association.
AFRA.
You've just started doing teardown. Yeah,
man. It's listen, we started doing some teardowns a couple of years ago with my pals from JSSI, and they brought a couple airplanes in, and we parted the airplanes out, and we were looking at as fast as we could harvest the part off the airplane, it was sold already. And so we loved that ecosystem of being able to look at the value of some of the Achilles heel to the OEMs, the supply chain, right? So when you have issues with supply chain and you've got really nice tagged parts, there's a lot of value in that. So I think we're in our 8th teardown right now, and we find that to be very lucrative. And it helps us with our MRO business. We know what the high turn items are on each aircraft. I think it's going to be a really meaningful part of our business. Maybe we have I consider our 4th integrated business as our construction department, but maybe we have aircraft recycling and teardown and parts and rotables as a 5th down the road. But it's nice when you get a Sky Service tag on it. They know that there's really high standards, really good pedigree, and we can sell internally to our existing aircraft that need parts, or we can list the parts on ILS, and those move relatively quickly.
So it's a really interesting market, isn't it? But it's one where you can get it wrong quite easily.
Yeah, like I think we have to be careful about stuff we want to inventory. And I've been very cautious about that. I've seen a few different situations where we can buy an airplane and the engines sell relatively quickly and the key components of the airplane sell, and then you kind of sit and say, well, how fast can I turn these items and how many exchanges can I do without having to overhaul? So we've been cautious there, but for somebody that's like end of life with their airplane and there's some market rash where it's not selling, and I think there's more value in the parts than sometimes the full aircraft, and that's what we've seen, end of life solutions with just good, well maintained airplanes, but there's not really a market for them to be sold.
Okay, so we talked about the FBOs. You've got Seattle. You've talked about Fort Lauderdale. Where else do you think you'll expand in the next year?
Yeah. So I'll pull up our map. So we talk a lot about, like, we're at 13 locations now. When I started, when I bought the company, we were at 4 locations. And it's tough, right? Multiples are really high when you go out and acquire an FBO today. So we love that building pedigree that we brought to the business. At this point last year, we had about $150 million of steel in the ground. So we just took occupancy in Seattle. Awesome location at Boeing Field. We're almost fully leased up already. We're beating our pro forma on rent per square foot. We just broke ground in Napa. Super excited about Napa. I underestimated how many people are going to move to Napa to base their airplanes there. The infrastructure just hasn't been at Napa for a long time. So we're selling a lot of fuel, and we're going to have a state-of-the-art FBO. And then next week, I said we're opening up Fort Lauderdale. Fort Lauderdale's going to just be amazing. And then, you know, we've got a couple of key things in the pipeline right now that we're working on, and some acquisitions, and then also a couple new greenfield developments. So I would anticipate we'll probably be up to 20 FBOs in the next 18 months.
So is that going to be the biggest driver of growth?
Yeah, Liz, I think there's our infrastructure in the space there's airplanes are getting bigger, and there's huge barriers to entry. I think that people look at Sky Service and say, you know, if I'm an airport director or a CEO of an airport, it's like, I like this integrated model. These guys add a lot of value to our business or to our location. We do everything, right? We build hangars, we sell fuel, we can maintain aircraft on the commercial terminals. We do a lot of that, by the way, retail maintenance for some of the airlines. And then, you know, we're a value add to the community. And we give back quite a bit, and it's a destination location for employees. It's tough to get into the space in the U.S., but I think most of our dots on the map are full for Canada. So now we're just trying to figure out a way to leverage our footprint to get more, build more.
And acquisitions of aircraft management companies, any interest?
Yeah, it's a question mark. I'm not sure. I love the space. It's where I grew up, running EJM for all those years. I just think there's a lot of good operators in the U.S., and I don't know how we would like differentiate ourselves in that space. I love the FBO business. Man, if I could hire some more maintenance technicians, I'd hire them and put them in a lot of our different locations. There's no talent out there, right? And so we're doing some grassroots projects right now to build the next generation of maintenance technicians. I've got 240 technicians in my business today, and I could easily hire 100 more, but they're just not out there. So I want to be excellent in everything we do. I never want to be mediocre. And I kind of feel right now that if I went into the U.S. to be a management company, I'd be kind of mediocre, and I can't find the talent for technicians, so I'd be mediocre. I'm not a mediocre guy.
We had George this morning. You know Kenny Dichter very well. When are you SPACing?
I'm not doing that. This is my company. You know, I'd love to make this a family business. My kids are getting to the point where they're getting older and trying to think about if they want to follow in dad's footsteps. but I built a hell of a business, and I think could be a generational business. I got a great team. I love basically all the guys that we built EJM together. They're back with me now here, and it's like a nice family. So listen, I don't know how the SPAC. I'm not smart enough to figure out how the SPAC works, but listen, I just love running. I'm an operator. I'm not a great finance guy, but I can operate, and I love operating.
We've got Jim Seagrave coming. He can tell you how fun it's been.
I bet that's fun. Yeah.
Do we have any questions for Ben? Or if not, you've clearly answered everything, and I think everyone else just annoyed you got Justin Timberlake for an hour and a half. Thanks so much.
Thanks, bro.
Cheers.
Thanks.